In life, we would all face trials, tribulations, challenges. They are indeed a part of this continuous journey of life and living. But like that quote says, it is not about what happens to us in life, but it's about what we do and how we respond to what happens to us. You are welcome to another edition of Chapters. And on this episode, we will be talking about overcoming the challenges of life through a book that I read and I have been personally very blessed reading. And my special guest is also here today going to tell us how he overcame his challenges of life. And he's still overcoming because, you know, it's a continuous journey and the lessons that we can learn from him. My book is titled Through It All, the memoir of my many, his many trials and triumphs. And my guest is Mr. Kola Olugbodi, who I will call the champion of background checks and the CEO of Background Checks International Global. I was going to say Nigeria. You are most welcome to Chapters, sir.
Thanks so much, Pastor T.
It's wonderful having you here. It's such an honor.
Thank you for bringing me over.
Thank you for making it, sir. And, you know, just like I said, I came across your book. I read your book. At some point, I dropped it. I remember listing out all of the trials and triumphs and thinking, only one person. This problem in life is much. I mean, we know life is dramatic. And we know many are the afflictions of the righteous. But this, for me personally, even just put that in perspective. But let us, you know, just tell the arc of your story a bit. Or maybe I should start with what led you to write this book at the time that you wrote it?
All right. Thanks so much, Pastor T. So nice to be here. The primary reason why I wrote Through It All, many thought it was, maybe I was trying to write an autobiography. I said, no, it's not an autobiography. It's a way of capturing the challenges I've gone through in life and how I've been able to scale over some of them and how I've been able to continue to live victoriously with some of them up to date. You know, I just checked my life and I felt others are going through same thing I had gone through or some of the things I'm still going through. And, you know, some up to now still don't know the way out. They're still grappling with it. They're still complaining and they still feel, oh, this is going to end. And then some have ended their lives thinking that, okay, this is too much. Let me go to another life. Then I'll find the peace and the joy and the prosperity I'm looking for. So I decided to write the story of my life to encourage anyone going through any of the challenges I've gone through in life, for them to know that whatsoever thing you're going through, it's not going to end that way.
Yes, sir. There's
always a tomorrow. Whatever you're going through yesterday or going through today does not determine what your tomorrow is going to be like. You know, so that's the primary reason. Of course, it was so tough for me to to eventually push it out. I remembered after writing everything, I left it for like 2 years.
Wow.
Trying to convince myself that I want to really be as vulnerable as I've captured it, saying some things that people wouldn't normally say to a third party.
And but I just put it out to the whole
I
world.
just felt, well, if you don't put it that way, they won't understand that, oh, okay, somebody else is going through what I'm going through or has gone through it before, so it's not only me. And so I had to summon up the courage, and then I pushed it out.
God bless you, sir. Thank you for summoning up the courage and putting it out. One of the things that we're personally about, you know, is speaking. At Storyteller Media, we just want people to talk. Because just like you said, the more that we talk about things that we think should be, in this part of the world, a taboo or hidden, people are going through everything you wrote in this book. Billions of people are going through it. And the more that we talk, we help somebody else to give perspective or just to give peace of mind. I'm not alone.
It's true.
And sometimes reading your book, all somebody will see is, you know what, I'll be fine. I might not know the way out, but I will be fine. So thank you for taking the courage to write this book.
Thank you so much.
And what I love when you were talking, you said, one of the things you said was, how you overcame, but also how you've learned to live victoriously. Because it's not everything that you overcome. It's not every challenge you pray and is taken away. Some of it is that you realize my grace is sufficient for you.
It's true.
You're going to hold on to this
My
thing.
strength is made perfect in your weakness.
And
It's
you
true.
just, you and God, day by day, you hold on to it. And when you get to heaven, you say, God, but why me? Or, but
Well,
why? Or you just say, I'm
there's some of
fine.
those things that you know the reason why they are happening, you know. Like I tell people my disability, the only reason why I prayed, I went for crusades, I went to churches. But over time, I discovered that God left it that way so that I can connect with those that have same issues or other issues. So when they feel, oh, the whole world is just crumbling on me, I say, I know how you feel. I'm there. I'm still there. You know? So I tell people, no more pray for me because I'm healed. Because I found the purpose why this is happening.
Wow,
you know?
that's powerful.
So once you know that there is a purpose, there's always a reason why God did this, then there's no need to fuss over it. Thank God.
Said it's absolutely profound, absolutely powerful. Wow. And let's start from there. Your disability. So you're physically challenged. Yes, that's the way to say it.
Yeah.
You were not born like this.
No.
Tell us what happened.
All right. I think it was when I was 2 years old. My mother said one day, I said I wanted to poo, and then she got me the potty. And she left the room thinking that when I'm through, she will be back. And then, of course, when she came back, she found me on the floor. And, of course, maybe because I was always mischievous and troublesome, then she thought I was just playing one of those my pranks. And she told me, Kola, get up. And I said, Mommy, I can't get up. I said, get up? What do you mean you can't get up? And then she pulled me up, and then I went all the way to the ground again. And then, of course, then she realized that there was a big problem. The 2 legs went dead, you know. And like she said, the only way I could move around then was to drag myself along the floor with my hands, you know. Wow. So that was how the whole thing started, you know. And like I captured in the book, at first everybody felt, oh, all right, this should not be a big problem. It's like Yorubas will say, it's high fever. That you just need some herbal concussions and things will be okay. So I remember they took me we had a neighbor then, like my mother said, that was an herbalist, and so he was giving me the agbo, like they say in Yoruba, you know, the concussions, and I was taking it. And then one day the wife of the herbal man said, no, they should not bring me to his house again. And my mother said, why? He said, overnight, she does discover that her husband was covered with measles from head to toe, you know. And then when my mother saw him, you know, that was not captured in the book. She later explained more after the book that the man said, like she said, he told her, "Anwaye," you know, which is a way of saying witches or whatever.
Or the village people.
Or the village people. They visited him overnight, asking, why are you treating that boy?
Wow.
You know? So that was the end of the treatment with him. And then, of course, I was taking, my grandmother sent for me. Then we were still in Lagos. She sent for me in Abeokuta and said, bring him. We should be able to handle him over here in Abeokuta. So the first place they took me to was one Afar, and they said he was doing all this onto and everything. And then one day the man just dropped down and died.
That one is in the book. And when I read it for me, I was like, okay.
You know, then then they took me to one of Batala priests, and that one said, yes, I'm going to make aseje, like they say in Yoruba. It's another way of concussion. And he said they should come for it on Thursday. The guy died on Wednesday, you know. Of course, that's how that's how my life was when I was growing up, you know. It all started when I was 2. I was not aware of anything, maybe until I was like 4. Then that 4, I remembered one of those days when they took me from the Obatala. I think I was around 4 then. Then they took me into one very deep forest. They said there's one witch doctor that knows how to appeal, you know. Somehow I was there for like 6 months, and when I was going to come back, I don't know what happened. The right leg came back to life. But of course, up to date, the left leg is still as dead as it was some 54 years ago.
Wow. That beginning alone is a journey.
It's a journey.
And, you know, some people can watch this now, and I'm trying to remember actually if you mentioned if your parents were people of faith, or if they...
No, they were not.
They were not.
Then they were not, you know. That's why anywhere they feel they can find help.
Exactly.
Anywhere anybody says, no, this person should be able to help, more especially my mother, she was ready to follow, whether it's going to be a church or an herbalist or a witch doctor or just anything for our son to find healing,
yes,
so to speak.
Yes, because some people can listen to this and sometimes be judgmental. Why would you take the boy here, take the boy here? But putting yourself in the position of a parent,
yeah,
all of a sudden, your precious child, I mean, all you want is help. And at that point, you feel helpless. And like you said, they say, go here, go there, go there. You would really want to do anything you can do.
That's exactly what happened.
Wow. So at the point when you then came back at 4, your right leg had resurrected. And your left leg, this was now you. And it's interesting. I want us to also then talk about how you battled with self-esteem, confidence, because this was now you. You had 2 older brothers.
Yes.
Yeah, the third. And then there were some, so I think you are 7 in total.
We're actually 9.
Yeah, 9. Hey, it was a lot of children.
Eventually.
And, you know, you being the only one going through this. From childhood, just like you mentioned in the book, you struggled with it. You struggled with feeling, why me, disadvantaged. Everybody can run, you can't run. And the masquerade story that changed your life. Tell us about that, because... And one of the things we're doing this is, even if it's not physical disability, there are things that happen to all of us in life that make us feel limited. Why me? Everybody is fine. Why is it only me this one is happening to?
It's true.
And it really affects people with a lot of self-esteem and self-worth. How did that work out for you? And how did you then become the Mr. Kola Olugbodi now that has written a book and is all super amazing?
You know, growing up, of course, I enjoyed, you know, there is a way you enjoy those pity party. At home, they don't allow me to do anything. Oh, don't sweep. He can't sweep. How will he stand? Oh, don't let him carry any bucket. How will he do it? Oh, don't let him do this. You know, so I was enjoying all those until maybe I was like 8 years old. And we were taken to the village for Christmas. And then the Christmas of that year coincided with the masquerade festival of the village, you know. And then one of those days, we decided to hit town with some of my cousins. And then I know one of my uncles was there. And if I can remember, I think like 2 of my very young siblings were there then. We all just went out, and then we got to the market square of the village. And we had this drumming coming from nowhere. And suddenly everybody started running helter-skelter. And, you know, and the people said, that masquerade is not supposed to meet anybody on the road. He's not supposed to meet. So everybody just took off. And, of course, I was supposed to take off also. Then I now discovered that there are runnings and there are runnings. More especially when you're running, when danger is confronting you and you need to escape. Everybody ran. Then my own running was hopping on my right leg. Then, of course, because there was danger, I will hop and then fall over again. So I started screaming, I started crying. that somebody should help. Of course, all the guys we left my family compound together, everybody was gone.
They had left you.
And even everybody on the street, everybody was just running. And of course, I started crying, and somehow some serious thoughts just started going on through my mind. I just felt, all right, so in life, when you think you need people most, that's when they will desert you. When you think you need help, every man, it's always for themselves. You are all for yourself.
Wow.
You know. So that day, I can always still remember as if it was yesterday.
Wow.
I just told myself, I'm not going to depend on people again. I'm not going to rely on people. I'm not going to trust them. I'm going to go through life and go through life the way I'm going to face it anyhow. You know, it was just like saying, now, guy, is either you escape from this masquerade by yourself or he catches up with you and anything can happen. And that's the way I saw life, that it's either you face it and know that your destiny is in your hands, or you get swallowed up by issues of life. You know, so that day, somehow I didn't even care again whether the masquerade catches up with me, since nobody even cared. You know, but thank God it didn't catch up with me. Right?
You said an uncle returns
yes,
to carry you.
That my uncle is just a year older. You know, when your grandfather is still having the fourth wife, you know, he's just a year older than me. When he saw that the coast looked clear, he ran back and said, "Kola, jumped on my back." Then I hopped on his back, and then he ran away with me. And then, of course, I changed the gear of my crying. I said, "Okay." So people will only come back for you when it's convenient for them. So he felt, all right, the masquerade has gone another way. Let me go help him. And sincerely speaking, from that time on, I never knew that those decisions I was making in just my very young heart was going to be was going to define my life. So from that time on, I was no more enjoying the pity party. No more pity me because I no more want it.
Wow.
No more tell me, oh, Kola, don't do this. A time is going to come, I will need you to help me fetch that water, and you will not be there. So let me start fetching it. I don't care whether the full bucket gets to half by the time I get to the bathroom.
But at least.
But let me do it myself. So I just discovered that can-do spirit just took over my life. And from that time on, never tell me, Kola, you cannot. And something in me will just want to prove a point that I can by doing what you said I can't. You know, like I always say, I think I shared it in the book. As I was growing up, please don't tell me, Kola, you cannot. I will always prove to you. So when my father started dropping his cars for my siblings.
That was an interesting story.
And then I said, okay, that is my turn. And he said, Kola Ole, you can't drive this car. And then to console me, he said, when you grow up, you'll be rich enough to buy an automatic vehicle. Then you can drive. You know, I just smiled. I don't argue with you when you say, Kola, you cannot. I will leave you. And then I left him. And then from that time on, I started learning and teaching myself how to drive that car.
And that led to a very interesting story in this book. And a very interesting chapter in your life. But let's quickly go on a short break now.
Okay.
And we will come back and talk about that. Like, when I read that story, I had a good laugh where I was, as I was also afraid for your life. But, I mean, you are here today. Guys, we're going to continue this conversation after the break. This is a conversation that will change your life. We'll be right back after the break. You are welcome back to this very enlightening and inspiring episode of Chapters, where I'm talking with Mr. Kola Olugbodi, sharing with us how he overcame or learned to live victoriously through his many trials and triumphs and challenges. And sir, thank you once again for being here.
The pleasure is mine.
Thank you. Before we went on the break, we hung our conversation on what I consider a very interesting turn in your story. So, I mean, you were talking about, how you developed your can-do spirit, and when your father challenged you that you couldn't drive his car. But unknown to him, you started learning behind his back how to drive his car. So how did your whole family finally find out that you could drive this car? Please tell us the story as you said in your book.
Of course, anytime my father leaves his car in front of the house, I'll go there, of course, steal the keys. Then I started practicing. Okay, so what you have the clutch, the brake, and then the accelerator. So how do I change the gear? The clutch was always hard, so I needed to use my left hand to press my left leg that is paralyzed so hard on the clutch.
So you use your left hand to press your leg.
Yes, so I would need to really use it to press the leg on the clutch. And so when the clutch is down, then I'll quickly use my right hand to change the gear, either to 1 or 2 or 3. And then, of course, almost permanently, the left hand is on the left leg because you always need to change gears regularly. So this is the only hand that drives that. Okay. So I need to always hold the steering, So the first day, of course, I was always moving it back and front in the streets like that. And I said, yes, I think now I know how to drive.
How come nobody on the street saw you to report you that it's like your son is driving? No. Or maybe they didn't know.
Well, most guys does that thing. Okay, your father park your car and then you just helping him to warm it. That's all
that is it.
Daddy, let me help you warm your car. So the day I just felt, yeah, I think I need to move on the road. So that day I joined the road for the first time. Then I discovered that there was a lot of difference in moving the car in the street and moving it on the main road, So I was managing myself. Then, of course, I was behind the car. Then we almost got to a railway crossing. And then the train started building its own. So the man in front of me was really hesitating. Should I go? Should I wait? Not knowing that was not even a learner. I was worse than a learner. Behind him, not even knowing what to do. I was seeing his lights going off and on, then suddenly it just moved. And by the time he made up his mind, I just got to the railroad. And because I had slowed down, the car was in gear 3, and then the thing just stopped on the railroad. Then the train was coming, and of course my head said, okay, start and move. And then I would put on the ignition, and then the vehicle will jump to the front and then go back to the railroad. Then the train was moving so close. People had gathered and they were shouting, get down. But my head was saying, so if I get down, who is going to move the car? No, you can move it. So I kept on trying, and then it will jack and then go back. And then somehow, like we always say, something just told me, this car is in gear 3. So for the first time, I now knew, okay, cars don't move in gear 3, they move in gear 1. So I had to change back to gear 1, press the clutch with my leg. This one was totally on the accelerator. The accelerator was, fly. As I just put on the ignition, the car just flew off the rail, and then the train just went behind me.
Literally, a split second.
Actually, it was, I'm not sure it's up to 5-10 seconds. Wow. As I was moving, the train just went, because I discovered that when I stopped and I got down, I had rigor. I was shivering. And I think it happened for almost, I had it for like 3 days. That night, everybody that knew my parents went from that place home. The news got home before I got home. But everything they were saying, the only thing my head was thinking is that you would have died. And all through the night, I could not sleep. I was on the bed, and the whole bed was shaking because, after that time, I just felt God must really be interested in my life.
Truly.
Because I just don't know. Because I think a week or two before then, a man actually died on that same rail spot.
Wow.
His car also just broke down. And then he was trying to push it off. Then the train met him there and then cleared him out. So it was, so that man's own experience was so
fresh in your mind.
So I knew I just cheated death.
And I think maybe that must have, after the fear, this is my personal assessment, but after the fear left, I think it gave you some sense of now a deeper confidence. It's like, my life, I can do all things.
No, I lost every confidence. I promised myself I will never drive again, you know. But I think I wrote it in the book, My Father's Driver, or one day they just sent us on an errand. You to drive. And the guy, we just got to a point when we were on our way back, he just parked, got down, and said, Kola, come here. I said, I'm not driving. He said, that one that happened only happened. It won't happen twice. You know, if he had not said that, maybe up to today I will just agree that one thing I can't do is to
driving.
Drive. You know, so he got to the passenger seat. I took the steering again. And immediately I held on to the steering. I remembered the train thing and I started shaking all over. He said, Kola, Nisuru. And I think by the time we did some 5 minutes, then I stabilized.
Well, you know, the beauty of this story, and God bless Mr. Owade, is that many times in life, we fail at certain things. And truly, that's where we end it. And I'm just going to read what you said here in page 26. You said, secondly, I came to realize that failure is a part of life. We fail so as to learn how not to make the same mistake again in life. You know, just like what happened to you, if not for someone that pushed you, you could have never driven again. And you always have a justified reason. Why you say, true. Something happened when I was so years old. And everybody will like, it's true. And then we use that to make excuses and to limit ourselves in life. So this is very powerful, that if you fail at something, we thank God you didn't die. Try it again and again. And don't let it limit you.
Of course, eventually I inherited that car before my father died.
Oh, it became your car.
It became my, because I just fell in love with driving the car. And they had to beg me to switch from manual to automatic.
Because you were not going to leave the car.
Because even every other car I used after that was manual. I say, no, I don't want to use automatic. I want to keep proving. So
were you still driving with your left hand?
Every car I drove, I still do the same. Wow. Since they still had clutch. But you know, things you do over time, you just get used to it. So it's always unconscious I do it. The left hand had already pressed. And
that is amazing. That is amazing. But it's interesting that you then talk in the book about how you became almost prideful and overconfident in yourself. So it's like you went 360 from someone who felt could not do anything, had this car experience, then maybe super intelligence was now getting to you. You know, you were passing your grades in school, everything was going well, and you got to this point where something had to happen to pull you back. So you then failed after. Tell us about that, because from going from failure to overconfidence is like, how did you go from that extreme to that extreme?
Yeah, maybe because I've now discovered my superhero strength, so to speak.
Peter, what's your superhero strength?
You know, just discovering that you can do anything. Just say it and you get it done, you know. So I just believed, even exams, what is exams? I can always pass, you know. The biggest mistake I made in secondary school, when we needed to choose whether from science subjects to commercial art, I think one of the teachers made, a silly mistake of saying that only the brilliant guys should go to science classes. So something in me said, okay, so if I'm brilliant, then I need to go to science. In a science class. And then I was there, and then we were doing physics, chemistry, biology. Chemistry I never understood up to today. Physics, I will understand the prose side until we get to the formula, and then they say, and then I get lost, you know, and then I still sat there saying, I'm one of the brilliant ones in this school. And then, of course, you know.
And would you say that was you still trying to prove a point?
I think so. I think I was just still trying to prove a point that once you're brilliant, you're brilliant. Face any exam and you're going to pass.
It's not like that, too.
I discovered too late. Then I sat for my first school SAT exam, and then, of course, the result came, and then I had only 2 credits, a lot of P's, and a lot of F's flying all over the place.
Wow.
I think that was another junction I got to, that another twist came to my life.
Yes.
After I failed, I was so confident in myself. You know, by that time I'd gotten, later when I read the Bible, when the Bible said, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me, then I now understood that then I was saying, Kola, you can do everything through yourself that strengthens yourself. That was the way I was able to term it later. You know, when I failed, I asked myself, I did like a root cause analysis. So why did you fail? Number 1, you were confident. Number 2, you were not even supposed to be in sciences at all. You were supposed to be in commercial. You like economics. You like all these things. Why did you do this, you know? And then, of course, number 3, I discovered that I was so full of myself. And, of course, my strength failed me, and I, for the first time, felt I needed an extra strength beyond myself. So that was like the first time in my life that I can remember that I started praying, even though I didn't know how to pray, that I got conscious of God. Then my immediate younger brother, Dapo, you know, he was always a year behind me, primary school, secondary school. Then suddenly at a point, started reading the Bible, pray every day. And then we saw him come from below to average. Then he just went above average and was topping the class. So something told me, that thing helping Dapo. You really need that thing helping him. So that's my journey to really coming down to say, okay, God help me.
And your journey to finding God, actually.
Eventually finding God.
Yes, which I think then just from that point marked the rest of the journey of your life, though still very tumultuous. And maybe we should just fast forward quickly at this point, because we can't go through the entire book. So you really need to read this book through it all, you know, but we'll just bring out the things we can bring out. So you finished secondary school, you went to the university, you attended Obafemi Awolowo University, you had your fair share of challenges in university life, but one of the very interesting challenges was the issue of settling down and getting married. Now, even for people that are, for want of a word, able-bodied, it's still a challenge. You can be toasting a girl. If you be complete, they will still not answer you. How much more, you know, for someone that is physically challenged? And it's easy for any woman to, even if she likes you, maybe she likes your mind, she thinks you look handsome, there would always be that thing in the mind of, maybe what will my family say? What will even me myself say?
Exactly.
How will I? And in the book, you did go through your journey. Just help us to just cap it a bit.
All right. Like I met this young lady back then in the university. You know, I got born again, my 100 level in the university, and after I got born again, I was interested in spiritual things. I wanted to know what makes what do you do for demons to get out? How do you lay hands on people and then they start speaking in tongues? You know, I was so fascinated with the spiritual things. You know, and one of those days, somebody said there was a young lady that needed Holy Ghost baptism, and then I ministered to her. And after that, she just wanted me to mentor her, you know. And so she became I became the mentor and the mentee. Back then, we don't use mentor, mentee.
Brother.
We say, is that senior brother? So I was like a father in the Lord. She was like a daughter in the Lord. You know? And we were so very, very close. Very, very close. Very good friends. And at the point, it just occurred to me that she was going to be my wife in life. And so maybe because...
my wife in life.
You know, maybe because we got so close, so I felt it was going to just be a walkover. So, so I started proposing to her in installments. I've been letting her know that something is going on in my mind. I know. So one of those days, she said, I think it was like a week before I left the campus, my final year. She said, Broke, that's what they called me back. And I said, that thing you've been trying to say, you've been telling me, I've been thinking, I've been wishing, I've been hoping, I've been praying. And then say, you will need to tell me what that thing is. And then I had to tell her that, yes, I've been wishing and hoping and everything that you'll be my wife. And then, of course, she was disappointed because many had told her, you and this your Broke. Hey, if we end up proposing to you, and she has said, no, Broke is not like one of all those brothers, you know. Then eventually I disappointed her by proposing, you know. And she said no. And I went back to God. Of course, I've been praying about it. And I went back to God. I said, God, I thought you told me that it's going to be Toyin. She said no. And God said, yeah, it's going to be her. I said, how? I said, 3 things are going to happen as you leave the campus now. You're going to be posted to Ogun State. You're going to start serving in Abeokuta. You're going to be retained where you serve in Abeokuta, and then you get married to her in Abeokuta. Of course, Abeokuta was an issue because Abeokuta was home to her. To Toyin then. That's where her parents stayed up till now, you know. And of course, things just went round, and then eventually I found myself in Ogun State, posted to Abeokuta, got retained where I worked, and of course I had to go back again and said, okay, if 2 of the things God said was going to happen, if that happened, then I think by now she should have known that, yes, it is me. Then I went back again, and then she said no. And then, of course, I went back the 3rd year, the 4th year.
I thank you for adding years, because I wanted you to let us know that it's not like 2 days and 2 weeks after.
No, it took 4 years. The 4th year, I was not going to go, but like I wrote in the book,
yes.
God,
go and read the book.
God tricked me into the 4th thing, and then God convinced me that it's I. He said, you are not, and I was not disobedient to the heavenly vision. God needed to make me hear it very audibly that if you don't go for her, then you are disobedient to what I've told you. So I had to go the last time. Then, but by that time, God had prepared her. Then she knew that God had told her, Kola is coming back. And then, so when I came back, of course, I was so used to getting no. So this time I said, what's the response? And she said, hold on. I said, oh, fine. You know, and then after the way she said it when she came back, she said, if it were other times, I would have still said no. But this time I will say yes. So I actually had no. Then I now felt I had yes somewhere. So I had to beg her, sorry, I didn't get what you said. Repeat, he said. She was not picking a word. If it were other times, I would have still said no. But now I would say yes. You know, of course, like you rightly said, some of the things that made her not to easily give up, she needed to count the cost. You're going to be marrying somebody with disability. Your friends are already talking. With time, they got to know me in our family, and then they were already saying, is this, of all the men on earth, is this brother Kola that you want to marry? And then, of course, so she needed to get to the point wherein she's 1,000% sure that God has got her back. You know, it's been a journey of 27 years now.
Woo!
You know.
That is amazing. And I think your resilience, I mean, we can look now and say, oh, 4 years after, then 27 years, which is now a total of 31 years, really, if we count the 4 years of your chasing. Your resilience just points to the fact that sometimes, because from the get-go, you knew that God had told you she was going to be the one. And it's the same way sometimes from the get-go. It could be marriage, it could be anything. We know that this is what God has said. But you hit that door, it's closed. You hit that door, it's closed. You hit that door, it's closed. But you know, and I think for me sometimes it's the interestingness of the journey of faith.
That's just the beauty of it.
Yeah.
That's just the
Thank you for
beauty
saying
of it,
beauty.
You know, because it got to a point, I think the third year, she said, Brock, if you keep coming back, it will affect our friendship.
That you'll not even be friends again, yes.
And then so I promised that I'm not going to come back again, you know. And then I started praying. I said, okay, God, this door is closed. Open another one. And then I thought some other 2-3 other doors opened. And I knocked the doors and they banged them at me. 3 times I knocked. 3 times I got no's, you know. So at a point I told myself, I know it can be so disappointing. I can say it now and it's looking as if I got frustrated.
Yes.
I felt... all right. Of course, I knew the reason. It's my disability. The face is okay, but by the time you get to the legs and say, yeah, you know. So I told myself, I'm going to be married in life. Wow. I'm going to be married. I know a lot of people will tell me no, but I deserve the best in life. I deserve the best of wives. So I kept on telling myself, Kola, you deserve the best. You deserve the best. I would tell myself over and over again. Anytime the thought comes and I get so frustrated, I say, Kola, you get the best. You deserve the best.
Wow. Thank you.
So I now have the best.
Yes, you do. Thank you for sharing that. And I think specifically for anyone watching that has a physical challenge, because many times you don't realize how heavy that can be, you know, whatever kind of challenge it is. Know that just like him, you deserve the best. And it's that sometimes responsibility, but sometimes just that drive to keep telling yourself that I deserve the best, I'm going to get the best. And no matter how long it takes and how many trials and how many people say no to me and make fun of me and shut the door in my face, I will still get the best.
True.
Thank you for sharing that story, sir. We're going to go on a short break now, and we'll come back still talking about more interesting things. This is not the end of the challenges, though. After this, you would think that life was smooth sailing, but now we just went to another chapter of challenges. But we'll be right back after the break to talk about that. Don't go anywhere. You are welcome back to what has been a most amazing conversation talking about Mr. Olugbodi's unique challenges and trials, but indeed one that we can all learn from. And from the beginning up until now, it would seem like finally you finished school, you are married now. I mean, what else can happen? Life can only go on a beautiful path. However, even when I got to that point, I was like, what else is left? This is the end of the story. But it was the beginning of many other stories. And, you know, one of the reasons, again, why I thought it was important to have this conversation is because the challenges, we can use that word, of life never ends.
No, it doesn't.
You hit one, you are victorious, another one is waiting for you by the corner. So we ended with your marriage, you got married, that had happened, and then infertility came, work challenges came. In fact, you lost your business at some point and all your money. You lived with a friend in a BQ for 3 years.
Exactly.
Came after living in almost a mansion to a BQ. They'll think I was in the house. But just take us through how you work through some of those things. And if you want to touch on maybe the infertility, for example, and why that for me. In fact, I remember when I was talking about this with my assistant producer, and she said for her, what touched her was many times, especially when it's the man, because you had low sperm count, your zinc story, especially when it's the man, you know, And I think these are the vulnerable parts that you thought to yourself, do I want to put this in the public space? So you had issues with your sperm count. You couldn't get your wife pregnant. A doctor even told you, you can never get a woman pregnant. How did you and your wife handle that?
Let me take it from the doctor's office.
Okay.
Thank God that it was my wife and I that were with the doctor when he said, Mr. Olugbodi, with this report I'm looking at, I'm afraid you won't be able to impregnate any woman in your life. You know, that's the way he said it. And I said, never, sir. He said, I'm afraid never. You know, and my wife was just recanting recently. When we left the hospital, I was the one that drove. She said we didn't say a single word until we got home. Of course, one of the things going on in my mind, I was gone when he said that, because I just felt, wow, this poor lady that they told her not to marry
After all this time.
Eventually, I won't be able to give her a child. I was already mourning my, you know. But when we got home, she just told me, my dear, she is a doctor that told you that. Or is it God that told you that?
Wow.
I said, the doctor said, he said, no, that's the doctor's report. That's not God's report. And so we both got praying. She was praying, I was praying. And God was giving us confirmations that you're going to have children. Our own was even very, 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 very dramatic. She saw a tree, and then on the tree, it only had 2 fruits. And God told her, those are your fruits. You're going to have 2, you know. But God kept telling me, Kola, you're going to have children. I think until the 6th year, of course, by that time, the business had failed. Things were down for us. No money, no food, no friend, no nothing. So I kept on running, just hoping that something was going to work out anyhow. They will promise you, come to Lagos, maybe you'll get this, then I will run. Then one of those days then we settled in Abeokuta. I was in a public bus from Abeokuta to Lagos. I just thought over everything we were going through, and I got so overwhelmed, you know, and I just bent my head. You know, I just started singing. Of course, the singing was to cover up my crying, because I started crying. The tears were flowing. I was in the public bus. So the only thing people were hearing outside was somebody humming a song. But I was really crying. And of course, I was asking God, so what is our problem? You've promised us severally. When are things going to change? And then all of a sudden, God started speaking to my heart and said, bring out your Bible. So I brought out my Bible. Thank God I had a Bible with me. It was not the days of smartphones that we all have phones, Bibles on our phones. I brought out my Bible, and it said Isaiah chapter 40. And I opened to it, and then I started reading. It said, comfort ye, my people. Speak comfortably to Jerusalem. Say unto her, your hardship is over. For all your sins I give you double. You know, when I read it, I knew what God was saying. Number one, I knew it said your hardship was over. Your waiting period was over. And then, of course, from now, I'm going to give you double. So I just got to Lagos, took another vehicle back to Abeokuta, told my wife, God said it's time. He said our hardship is over. Of course, I think like 9 to 11 months after that time, my wife, gave birth to our first son.
Okay, sir.
You know.
So, you know, so that we always tell these testimonies, but from you can never impregnate someone to my wife got pregnant. Just tell us, because sometimes people need, so that they sort of have context.
Okay,
yes,
all right. You know what? We were visiting the hospitals, and before that day, and the more I discovered in my own case, the more I was taking the treatment, the more the sperm count was dropping until it got to 0. Then it got to a point that God told us, stop visiting the hospitals. That I'm going to do it. So we just we were just there. Of course, it was tough. It was tough. It was tough for my wife. It was tough for, and you know, when you have a wonderful wife that won't say a word that she was not the problem, and you know, in this side of the world, when the wife is not getting pregnant, everybody keeps looking at her. You know, of course, she was fighting that battle inside of her because everybody said, Sister Tony, what's the problem now? And she can't say, oh, go talk to my husband, you know. It was really, really, really very tough, you know. Of course, one of the reasons that was one of the areas I felt I was so vulnerable, mentioning, I mean, the nitty-gritty of what we went through. That I know many people go through such things.
Yes.
And they just feel hope is lost. The doctor have said it, no way forward. Let's just begin to count our loss, and if we can get other children to come stay with us or we adopt, fine, you know. But the truth of the matter is that because God promised her, God promised me, we just stayed on the promise of God.
Wow.
It wasn't easy. Like many people, we always think, oh, this guy is a powerful guy. There are times, you know, especially when you have multiple troubles on your head at the same time, you know. You have those people you hope pulling you on one side. You have police coming to pick you up one side. You have, you know.
We didn't say the depth of this story. So this season of your life, you were low. You were gone. There was,
you know, like in the book, that was the season that, of course, the trouble was so much, and my wife just felt, she didn't tell me, she only told me after.
Oh yes, the part where she
that
wrote.
She felt, God, if only you just take this man, let him just go, and then this trouble will stop. Debtors will come running after us. All these things will stop because I was the problem. I was a Jonah bringing all the trouble to the ship, you know. But God had plans for my life, so that did not happen.
Certainly.
You know.
And let's quickly talk about, because anybody listening will know that your faith, by the time you took God seriously, it has totally defined your life. But there was a mind-blowing story. My mind was blown that you wrote in this book that I just wanted to share. And this was when, so eventually you got a job in a bank, excellent job, and then fraud had occurred and your system was used. So you were obviously the culprit. And when you were taken before the disciplinary committee or whatever, you, even saying it, I'm laughing. You told them to give you 30 minutes to go and pray. Now, when I read it, I said it was a different thing. Maybe if you said, okay, when you go home, you pray, then come back tomorrow. And I was reading it with a, quote unquote, with a Christian mind. You know, these days especially, our faith and our lives are like two separate things, right? I can be a Christian in church on Sunday, that's where I'm a Christian, but every other day of the week, we get by. What I saw with you was an interesting blend. Like, you carried your relationship with God and you understood how it flowed into your life. So you actually, tell us the story. Don't even let me tell the story.
All right. So when the fraud occurred, of course, it was a dead man that owned an account in the bank. And then one day the lawyers wrote and said we needed the balance in the account so that we can get it for the dead man's family. And then they discovered that there was no fund in the account, and the account has actually been closed. And then, of course, everything pointed at me. And then when I was interrogated, you know, when professing to be wise, you become a fool. I looked at the computer printout and I said, it's not me. Then, of course, I started pointing out the mistakes the guy did. I said, if it were me, I won't do this. I would rather do it this way. And they said, obviously, Mr. Olugbodi, you are the one that committed this fraud. You're so smart. You know what to do. You know, at that point, I got afraid. I really got afraid, and I knew I was in trouble. And I knew that at that point, I needed God to help me. You know? So the only thing I could say is that, please, I don't know the next things to say again. I don't even know how to defend myself. Please, I want to make a request. Can you give me 30 minutes? I want to go and talk to God. Then I will come back and then I will know what to say.
This is amazing.
You know.
Did they look at you strange?
One of them just said, well, I think you should go and pray because you need divine intervention to get out of this. And then maybe that was what now infuriated me. I'd gotten up. They said, okay, we give you 30 minutes. And he said, you need divine intervention to get out of this. And I'd gotten to the door, and then I turned back and I said, when I come back, I'm not coming back to start arguing again. I will tell you how your money was stolen, and I will tell you who stole your money. You know, after I said it, the confidence came that time. Then fear visited after.
Right. What have I just said?
I just said, what did you say? So I entered the radio room in the banking hall, knelt down, put on the AC, and then I just started praying. I just started praying and praying, and of course, just begging God for mercy and God help me. You need to bail me out of this. And, you know, all of a sudden, I just started almost like a vision or a video. God started playing the things that happened days before the fraud and then days after the fraud. And I said, God, please, that day. And then now we just entered into the day, and it was a day that I was hardly in the office. I came to the office to get permission to travel to Lagos. Then the bank was in Osogbo then. And of course, the person that committed the fraud used like 2 hours on the system. I was there for less than 5 minutes.
So it couldn't have been you.
You know, so I said, oh, okay. So God, I never even knew it was that day, you know. I never even knew. I was arguing as if I knew things. I said, God, thank you. I never even knew. I said, so who now stole the money? And as if God knew I was going to argue with him, I just felt in my spirit, write down the name of everybody in the office. So I started from the manager to the gate man.
Wow.
And then I started picking the names one after the other, and I was praying. Of course, I was praying in tongues. I was just praying. And then I got to number 8. And I felt the Spirit say, this is the person that stole the money. I said, no, it can't be him. You know, I started hugging. I said, please, let's keep going on. So I went to number 9. I went all the way down, then came back all the way up again, got to number 8. And the Spirit said, this is the guy that stole the money. I said, no, he's a messenger. How can he? But I rounded up my prayers, thank God, and then got up. I thought I was there for like 2 hours. Only for me to just look at the wrists, the wall clock in the room, and it was exactly 30 minutes. So I went back there and then told them, oh, all right, the day the fraud happened, this was what happened. I told them days before, I told them days after, and then I told them the day, just the way I got it. And then suddenly they said, oh, was it that day? No, yeah, you were not in the office. You know, the story just changed. No more argument, no nothing. Oh, was it that day? You were not in the office, because it was a day many cannot forget in the office. There was big commotion because there was a meeting, and I was the only one that was not there. You know, so they all knew that I was not around. You know, and then so it got to the point. So who stole it? I wanted to say Mr. What. Then I got cautioned. I said, so if I mentioned his name, if they called him, I say, lie, like they will say in here. And he said, Mr. Olugbodi, so defend your water. Yeah. I said, Holy Spirit told me. Then I'll be in trouble. So I just said, are we all on the same page that I didn't steal the money? They said, yes, we know that. I said, okay, before we leave the office today, you will know who stole your money. I just didn't know I was going to handle that part. So the best thing I felt I could do when I was released from the hook a little was to go back into that radio room to go thank God. I said, God, thank you for this. Thank you. And all of a sudden, I heard in my spirit, there's no peace for the wicked. I said, okay. So I knew what was happening. So I started praying for the boy and said, God, I withdraw his peace. He's not going to be able to deny. God is not going to. And of course, I prayed and got up. And as I opened the door, the first person that passed by was that young man. I just called him and I said, come. And I called him back into that room. And I looked at him and I said, why did you steal a dead man's money? Why did you use my system? You should have known that you can't do something like this and escape with it. You know, I was not expecting what happened next. I was expecting a very, very strong opposition. And then the next thing just started saying, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. He was saying it in Yoruba. And then the next thing, he just hit the floor and then he started crying and rolling. Of course, I was afraid that because I'd never seen anything like that before. Then people outside had commotion and then they ran in, including the bank manager. And I said, sir, I told you that you were going to know who stole your money before we leave the office. He stole your money. He's already confessing. So you can take it from here, sir.
Wow.
You know, it always look as if one is so special, but of course I went back to God and said, God, so why me? Like people always ask. Because I know people that found themselves in police net, even locked up or even in prison or jailed for what they never knew anything about. I said, God, why me? And then, of course, God had been telling me it's time to move from the bank. And I said, I can't move from known to unknown. So God had to shake the eagle's nest for me to fall off. And so that was how I resigned from the bank. And then found myself in the world of business that I knew nothing about.
And that started again, yet another journey. I mean, there's so many things we can go on and on and on and on about in your book because, you know, just like we've said, every point in time was a faith adventure that led you to another faith adventure. Even starting this business for you was another faith adventure. Even to know the business to start and how the idea came was an idea that was never existent, and you got it and you're wondering, how do we do this? But I'm grateful for your life that through it all, in spite of the many challenges that you went through, at least we are here today. And whatever the continuing challenges are, eventually you did have your double. We didn't touch on that. Yes. They didn't come as twins like you thought they would.
I thought they were going to be twins. But my daughter came 7 years after we had the son. So it took us 14 years to experience the double.
Your story is amazing. Everyone needs to get a copy of this book. Before we continue, where can everyone get a copy of this book?
All right, it's on Amazon.
Okay.
And then it has its own website, tia.com.ng.
tia.com.ng.
Through it all,
tia.com.ng.
You can always order for the book via that site.
Excellent. Please, you have to get a copy of this book. It would do different things to different people. It would encourage, it would inspire, it would just calm some people down. That don't worry, no matter the craziness of the journey of your life, you can indeed make it through. If you had any final words to anyone watching, what would it be?
Well, I'm going to use a scripture in the Bible which I had come to fall in love with. The Bible says, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him from them all. Another version says, many are the hardship or the trouble of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him from them all. So no matter what you're going through, it's not going to end this way. It's not going to end. You're just going to get to that point, and then the story will change, and then you're already on the other side. You know, sincerely speaking, at some point, I thought of, why not even commit suicide? Even though it was tough, I was not going to kill myself. I just felt, when you are traveling, don't pray. Just, if you have accidents, at least you didn't commit suicide. You know, but now I now look and I say, oh, so if I died back then, all the goodies and the glory and the things I'm enjoying now I would not have really entered into them. Just because we don't know the future does not mean that your trouble is where it has ended. There's always a future. And that's why I always love tomorrows. So there's a tomorrow for everyone. We will all always enter it. And then you look back and you start wondering, so where was all this I'm enjoying now when I was swimming in trouble? But, you know, if you have not suffered, you won't appreciate it.
True.
When you enter into it.
True.
No matter what is happening in my life now, it can't get to my head. I'm still always as humble as when we were staying in the boys' quarters. And I think that's a big thing for me. Nothing shakes me now. I'm not agitated about anything. I don't want to be like nobody. I just want to be myself. So I don't have any competitor, whether in business or in life. Or rather, I have only one competitor, and that's myself.
Excellent.
You know, so I don't live my life for others. I live it for God. I live it for myself. And I know my life is to always encourage others. So there's always a tomorrow. That's always my conclusion. Don't think it's ended now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for writing this book. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being our guests. And thank you for sharing your story once again. I mean, I read the book and I felt it. I'm listening to you and I'm feeling the emotions all over again. And I just really want to say thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pastor T.
Your
so
story
nice
would
to be
indeed be encouragement and inspiration. It's been nice having you too.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to read out somewhere in the closing of his book as my closing too, because it just caps it nicely. And he says, this book is not about disabilities, but about confronting and overcoming life's challenges. You may not have any disability, but you might have concluded that life has not been fair to you, and so you cannot make it. Just as Mr. Olugbodi has said, there is always a tomorrow. And I wrote here that it is my hope and my prayer that his story and his journey will encourage and empower you. And just as he's here today telling his story, you might be watching this right now and your life is deep in the depths of only God knows what you're going through, or you might face something in the future. Know that there is always a tomorrow. Don't be defined by your limitation or your challenge now. Keep pushing for the tomorrow. Keep believing, keep hoping, keep trusting. And hopefully this would also stir up someone to have faith in God, to trust in God, and to believe in God. I want to thank you for watching today's edition of Chapters. But remember, it is not about what you know, but what you do with what you know. Until the next episode, God bless you. Goodbye.